Now that your tray is prepped, it's time to install it to the vehicle. Today we'll be working on our BT50. Our first step is to get our measurements because we need to find the height of the tray and we also need to find the gap between the cab and the headboard. The tools you'll need is a digital level, a straight edge, a square, a ruler, a tape measure, a notepad and pen and pencil. So our first step is to get the level of our car. I'm using the digital level and there's a few ways to do this. You can do it if your side step's not bashed up, you can do it on the side step. Otherwise, you can go underneath the car. You just need to find a flat level reading that we can use to transfer to the tray. So at the moment, it's sitting at 1.1. So on my level, I've got two arrows, one pointing up and one pointing down. This is to get your level bang on. So what I do is I make sure those arrows are pointing the right way when I go to a 90-degree position. Because we don't have a 90-degree surface to work off of, I'm going to make a 90-degree surface. So I'm going to take 1.1 off 90, which is 88.9. And that's what I'm going to get Matt to hold the level at on the highest point of the back of the cab. Matt's trying to get 88.9, which he's got now. Arrows pointing up and in, because that's how they were on the step. And now I want to hook onto this point because I want to get the measurement from the back of the cab to the center of the axle and the center of the bolt for our front foot. So our foot measurement is 123. Then I'll get the measurement to the center of the axle, which is 450. Once you've got your measurements, you want to minus 40 mil off. That 40 mil is the gap between the headboard and the cab, because obviously you can't have it hard up and you need a little bit of gap for flex in the chassis. So I take 40 mil off, which leaves us with 410 for our axle measurement and 83 for our center of our front foot measurement. So that's where the bolt goes into the front foot. Now we want to transfer our measurements that we have onto our tray. So I'm going to do the center of our front foot and also the center of our wheel guard. So you want to go off the front of the headboard here because there's a little lip here, and if you go off here, you're going to lose like 10 or so mil. Just put a straight edge up to that, butt your tape in, and then mark your 410. And to get our front foot measurement, I have a ruler here, and I'll just put our square flat up against the C-channel and up against the front of the tray. And then it'll mark our 83. So now we've marked out our measurements and our tray, it's time to get the height of our tray. So our recommendation for 2020 to present BT50 is 205. So our front feet, I'll cut down to 205 and we'll install them. The tools you'll need for this is a square, a hammer, a 19mm spanner, 2 C-clamps, a tape measure, a drill, a 12mm drill bit, a 5mm drill bit, rattle gun, and a 19mm socket. An M12x40, 2 washers, and an M12 nut. Putting this in the saw, butting my tape into the blade, and then measuring to the bottom of the foot, 205. And then do the same with the other side. So now I've cut these at 205. And like I said before, you can go lower, but don't go too low because the back of your tray will hit the blind spot bracket. So now we want to find the center of our foot and then we want to measure 90mm down. The reason being, this is 100mm C-channel, but if I go hard down, I'm going to hit this weld on the outside. So that's why I've done a 10mm difference so we can clear that weld. Now that I've marked this, I want to marry these two lines up, the horizontal one with the bottom of the C-channel and the one in the middle with our line we marked earlier. And once you've roughly got it in the position you need, you can always do minor adjustments with a hammer. So now that you're sitting on your marks, you want to make sure that your foot's square. So grab a square and just butt it up there, making sure you're sitting flat on the C-channel. So I'm going to drill a pilot hole first with a 5mm, and then I'm going to follow it with a 12mm to fit our bolt. I'm going to offset these holes for strength. So once you do your first hole, make sure it's square before you do the second hole. So once you put your first foot in, you want to get a measurement from the bottom of the C-channel to the bottom of the foot, just like that. And then you want to transfer that measurement to the other side, make it exactly the same. Otherwise your tray is going to be slightly off. Whether it's 2 or 3 mil, it's very noticeable. Right, now that we've got our front feet on, we need to flip the tray, put it on the vehicle, attach the 2 front feet to the chassis, and then cut our back 4 feet. The tools required is a rule, 19mm spanner, a 19mm socket, a digital level, tape measure, 5 and a 12mm drill bit, C-clamps, hydraulic trolley if you have one, or something just to hold the back of the tray up, a forklift, or any type of lifting apparatus. And the hardware required is an M12 bolt, an M12 nylock nut, and an M12 washer, and also a 50 by 50 square washer. And all of these will come in your bolt kit. As you can see, the tray's just sitting on there. I have a hydraulic trolley holding the back up because we have no feet at the back. I've just loosely got these bolts in. I'm going to align this up side to side. I'll just get it roughly in position and then I'll get some tools out and get a measurement. Now that it's straight, I'll just tighten these 2 front bolts up. So I'm just getting the same rake on the tray as the vehicle. I've gone an extra 0.2 higher than the actual car because once I take that trolley out, it'll just sag a little bit because it's putting weight on. So the chassis is going to flex a little bit and it'll be perfect. So I'll just measure my back feet. So I'll just put my tape on the mount, measure up to the bottom of the weld so I don't foul on it, and I'll go 225 and 225. So I'll cut 4 at 225. Now we're going to bolt the back 4 feet on. Same as the front feet, do a 5mm pilot hole, then you use your 12mm bit, bolt through and do them up. After installing your feet, you want to clean up all your wiring at the back. Plug in your BSMs, your park assists, your camera if you have them, and then also plug in your tail lights and your new steady lights. You want to do this before you put on under trays or wheel guards, just for access, so it's much easier. All you'll need for this is a 4mm Allen key, and the hardware you'll need is cable ties and adhesive cable tie downs, socket head, dome head bolts. You'll also get 3D prints, so either BSMs or park assists and a camera. So you want to fit those parts into those 3D prints and then install them. So you want to make sure you get your camera, your park assist and your blind spot sensors out of the vehicle when removing the tub. With the blind spots for this model, there's a little thread that I like to take off the factory one, put it into this one, slide it into these 2 holes there, push down, and then my nut goes into that thread and that locks it in, ready for install. So this is my left-hand side, so making sure your orientation is correct as well. Then screw in the 4 bolts, 2 on the front, 1 on the bottom, 1 on the top, and then plug in your BSMs. So for our camera mount, you're going to want to feed your camera through the print. There's 2 little factory screws on the back, screw them in, 2 holes making sure it's center, and rivet them in, and then plug in your camera. Then plug in your maxi lamps to your patch loom, then plug your patch loom into your factory loom on the vehicle, and then also plug in your new steady lights. Tidy up all your cabling with cable ties so it's all neat and tidy. Our next step is to install our under tray and wheel guard. You have to install the under tray first before the wheel guard, and it's also handy to install the mud flap on the wheel guard before you install it. All our bolts come within the kit. We're going to need our T-bolts that go in our uni strut, and it's pretty straightforward. Slide them in and bolt them up. The tools you'll need for this is a 4mm Allen key, a 10mm ratchet spanner or 10mm socket, and a ratchet, 13mm socket, 90-degree rattle gun, pencil, drill bits, 5mm Allen key, and a center punch. Hardware required: M6 by 16 hex socket bolt, M6 nylock nut, and M6 washer. You'll need 3 for each mud flap. These will not be in your kit, so you'll have to source these ones yourself. Bolts required for the under trays and wheel guards are the T-bolts, the M8 nylock nut, and the M8 penny washers. Now we're going to install our under tray and wheel guard. These are our T-bolts that go straight into our uni-strut, just like that. They go on the 2 outside ones. You're going to need 6 for the under tray and 4 for the wheel guard. Just roughly line up your bolts and then lift the under tray into place. So I've just loosely put that on so we can slide it back and forth, but I'll get the wheel guard on to tighten that up, butt that in, and we're good to go. So now once I've loosely fitted that, I want to line up these 2 marks in the center, and then I can screw that up. So I've had to cut out the guard here, otherwise this will be hitting the foot. Sometimes you have to cut the back and the front out to allow clearance. So once my guard's done up tight, I'll slide my under tray hard up to the guard and then screw that up. Now I'm going to position my fuel filler. This is just the factory filler that comes with the car. Most of the time we use these, but there are some circumstances with some models we have to modify. This one's quite easy, just 2 holes that are already pre-drilled. Mount it on a 45 to 30 degree angle, 2 holes and 2 bolts, and we're done. Well, it's as easy as that, guys. That's how to prep your tray and install it to your vehicle. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.